Have you ever, like, met someone who just speaks fluent wellness?
Oh, yeah, constantly.
Right. Like, they go to all the right retreats, they meditate every single day, and they can just effortlessly weave these big words like integration and presence into just casual conversation.
Right, yeah, and you'd expect them to feel so grounded.
Exactly. You'd expect interacting with them to feel incredibly grounding, like resting against this deeply rooted tree. But instead, you walk away feeling just strangely unsettled.
Yeah, there's that disconnect.
Yeah, your intuition is just ringing these alarm bells. It's telling you that all that beautiful vocabulary is actually operating like, I don't know, a high-end audio track playing over a movie where the lip sync is just slightly off.
Oh, that's a perfect way to describe it.
You know, you are hearing the script of healing, but the lived bodily reality of the person just, it doesn't match the words.
Yeah, it's completely out of sync.
So if you have a curious mind and you've ever felt that quiet, unspoken disconnect in the modern wellness space, well, this deep dive is going to put a magnifying glass on exactly why your instincts are completely right.
Yeah, and we are dissecting a really fascinating premise today. It comes from a text called The Disguise of the Sacred.
Such a good text.
It really is. And the central argument here is that there's this profound, unacknowledged wound right at the center of contemporary spirituality.
And that wound is exactly what we were just talking about, right?
Exactly. It lives in that exact gap you just described.
Yeah.
It's the chasm between the highly sophisticated spiritual frameworks people adopt and the actual raw physical experience of just being alive in the present moment.
Right.
The author basically suggests that much of what we call modern spirituality has um, morphed into a veil,
Yeah.
like a highly decorated curtain that actually conceals a really severe disconnection from reality.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand how a practice that is literally designed for connection actually creates disconnection, I mean, we have to look at the mechanics of what actually happens to people in these spaces.
Right, we have to look at the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the author uses this phrase that just completely stopped me in my tracks. They call it the sexualization of unreality.
Yes, that is a heavy phrase.
It's so intense. And, we aren't necessarily talking about literal sex here, but rather like the intense, visceral bodily sensations that people hunt for in these spiritual experiences.
Well, what's fascinating here is how our neurobiology just gets entirely hijacked in these healing environments. I mean, sensations, whether it's, say, an intense warmth in your chest during a group chant.
Or like the electric tingling you get during a really long meditation.
Exactly. Those sensations are frequently used as the ultimate metric for genuine connection. A seeker feels this massive rush of endorphins or a sudden wave of dopamine, and the brain immediately labels that physiological response as, well, a spiritual awakening.
Right, because it feels so big.
It feels huge. But the danger lies in the assumption that a real sensation automatically means you are connected to a real thing.
And that's the trap, right? Because the sensation itself is undeniably real. I mean, your heart rate is actually elevating, your blood vessels are dilating, the pleasure is biologically happening to you.
Yes, the body is doing the thing.
Right, but what are you mapping that sensation onto? It's like, okay, imagine sprinting on a treadmill,
Okay.
but you're in a dark, totally windowless room, and you're wearing a VR headset that's just playing a loop of a beautiful forest.
Oh, wow.
Right. The sweat dripping down your face is totally real. The runner's high is real. The burning in your lungs, all of it real. But the environment you think you're interacting with is just entirely manufactured. You are experiencing this profound physical response to a constructed illusion.
That treadmill scenario perfectly captures the physiological trap we're talking about. I mean, your body possesses these incredibly powerful orienting systems, right? Your sensory and sexual responses.
Which took like millions of years to evolve.
Exactly. Millions of years of evolution designed to pull you toward what is generative, what is tangible, what is actually alive in your ecosystem.
Right.
And when you take that ancient biological compass, and you point it toward an abstraction, toward, projected ideals or complex spiritual narratives, or what the author actually calls spiritual theater.
Gee, spiritual theater, that's so good.
It is. When you do that, your nervous system begins to fundamentally misalign. You are literally training your body to crave and respond to a void.
Which means your deepest desires are like literally being mapped onto disconnection itself.
Yes.
You feel deeply moved, but the object of your emotion isn't the earth or your neighbor or your actual physical body. It's just a concept.
And the tragedy is that the community around this person usually applauds them for it.
Yeah.
They look at this state of dissociation and they call it an awakening.
It's wild. But okay, once that baseline is compromised, the person usually feels this like subtle, lingering anxiety, right? A
Yeah.
sense that despite all these amazing peak experiences, something is just still missing.
Always. And this is exactly where the modern wellness industry just swoops in with its absolute favorite prescription.
Oh, I know what you're going to say. Integration.
Integration.
It is the buzzword to end all buzzwords right now.
It really is everywhere.
Yeah, and the idea is that we are all carrying around these fragmented parts of ourselves, traumas, shadow sides, inner children, and the goal is that we need to bring them all together to become whole.
Right. And I want to be clear, the intention behind integration is completely valid. We really do experience psychological fragmentation.
Sure.
But there's a massive structural flaw in how it's actually practiced today. Because integration requires an active understanding of what you are integrating into.
Okay, wait, say more about that. Integrating into what?
Well, if a person lacks a fundamental connection to the baseline of reality, meaning the sheer unnarrated physical presence of the body and the earth, then integration is just assembling broken pieces around a completely empty center.
Hold on, I'm tripping up on something here. Let's just look at the practical reality for a second. We celebrate people going to therapy, right?
Sure.
People process their traumatic experiences, they label their triggers, they basically get their mental house in order. So are we saying that organizing your psyche is actually harmful? Like, why is there such a critical lens on just getting organized?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the critique isn't that therapy or processing is inherently bad. Not at all.
Okay.
The critique is about mistaking a map for the actual territory. Think about it in terms of architecture.
Okay.
You can design a highly sophisticated, beautifully organized house.
Yeah.
You arrange all the psychological furniture perfectly. You label the plumbing. You know exactly why the front door sticks.
Right, you've done the work.
You've done the work. But you are building this intricate structure suspended entirely in midair. You're completely ignoring the fact that it has no foundation touching the earth. Organizing your mind does not automatically regulate your nervous system or connect you to the physical world.
Oh, man. So someone might spend like 5 years in intense psychoanalysis. They can perfectly articulate all their childhood wounds, and they feel incredibly productive about it.
Yep.
But biologically, they are still just hovering. They haven't actually landed in their body at all. They've essentially just built a highly sophisticated spreadsheet of their own fragmentation.
A spreadsheet of fragmentation.
Okay.
Exactly. And because they lack that true foundation, they have to expend enormous amounts of daily energy just to keep that organized structure from collapsing.
Oh, that sounds exhausting.
It is. It requires constant maintenance, constant hypervigilance, and, constant spiritual work. They are operating, as the author notes, above the earth.
Okay, so if the problem with integration is that we are trying to build without a foundation, we really have to define what that foundation actually is. What is the earth we are supposedly trying to land on? And the source material identifies this missing baseline as the feminine. And here's where it gets really interesting, because the way this text defines the feminine violently shreds the way modern pop psychology uses the term.
Oh, completely. I mean, the wellness space has almost entirely commodified the feminine into just a set of acquired personality traits.
Yeah, it's basically sold as an aesthetic
Oh,
or an attitude.
exactly. It's all about softness, receptivity, emotional intuition, wearing flowing clothes or adopting this sort of yielding posture. It's treated as an accessory you just add to your life to balance out your masculine drive.
Right, and treating the feminine like a personality trait or a mood board is like, it's like adding a soft focus vintage filter to an Instagram photo and calling it art, when the feminine is actually the camera lens itself.
Yes.
Or better yet, it's the blank canvas. It is not the paint you apply, it is the very condition that allows the paint to exist in the first place.
That is spot on. And the text roots this definition in older pre-industrial traditions. We're talking Indic, Celtic, and various indigenous cosmologies.
Right, where the framework is totally different.
Completely different. In those lineages, the feminine is simply the ground. She is the riverbed that exists before the water even flows. Practically speaking, in terms of our human psychology, the feminine is the capacity of reality to just be prior to any of our naming or judging or framework building.
To make that tangible for you listening, it's like, it's the difference between holding a coffee cup and just feeling the sheer physical weight of it. the heat radiating into your palm, the texture of the ceramic, versus immediately thinking, oh, I need this caffeine because I have a meeting in 10 minutes and my sleep score was terrible last night.
Right, exactly.
The feminine is the raw sensory data of existence before the mind swoops in and colonizes it with a story.
Yes. Nature does not explain herself. She doesn't offer a 10-step framework for growth, and she doesn't require your acknowledgement to function.
She just is.
She just is. Your digestion, your pulse, the actual gravity holding you in your chair right now, these things do not need to be integrated. They simply exist.
But modern seekers hate that, don't they?
They do. Because they are so conditioned by an economy of achievement, they find this simplicity completely intolerable. They take the feminine, which is the literal ground of being, and they turn it into a performance.
Wow.
They try to act feminine instead of actually resting in the physical facts of their own bodies.
Which opens up just a glaring question. If this baseline, this ground, is always there, like if it's literally the gravity holding us in our chairs and the breath moving in and out of our lungs, how did millions of deeply well-intentioned, highly intelligent people forget it?
That's a great question.
Like, how did the entire spiritual industry get so confused that they ended up on the VR treadmill instead of in the actual forest?
Well, there is a historical component to this, of course.
Hmm.
Over centuries, there was a systemic devaluation of bodily wisdom and a massive shift away from cyclical time.
Cyclical time meaning like the seasons.
Yeah, exactly. Cyclical time views life like the changing of the seasons. There are periods of death, decay, rest, and rebirth, where nothing is ever permanently achieved. But we replace that with linear time.
Right, the ladder.
Right. The idea that life is an endless ladder of progress, and you must constantly climb upward to become a better, more optimized version of yourself.
But beyond the history, the text points out there's this highly active mechanism happening right now in modern practices that keeps people trapped. And it is the chronic confusion between the feeling of expansion and the actual fact of return.
Yes, this is so crucial. Let's look closely at the most popular practices today. You've got intense holotropic breath work, immersive plant medicine ceremonies, extreme temperature exposures.
The ice baths. Everyone loves an ice bath.
Everyone is doing ice baths. And these practices deliberately push the nervous system to its absolute limits. If you do, say, an hour of hyperventilation during breath work, you are blowing off massive amounts of carbon dioxide.
You're literally altering your biology.
Exactly. You cause respiratory alkalosis, your brain chemistry alters, your hands start to tingle, and you experience this overwhelming flood of emotional release and euphoria.
You get the fireworks.
You get the fireworks.
You get a massive hit of spiritual adrenaline. And because you feel so expansive and so peaceful afterward, you just assume you have touched God or attained true presence.
But the crucial distinction here is that altered states of consciousness are, by definition, pulling you away from the baseline. They are peak states.
Right.
The physiological euphoria is completely real, but it is a temporary stress response. It's not a permanent foundation.
Yeah.
And we have built entire spiritual systems designed to cultivate the peak, to climb as far away from mundane physical reality as humanly possible.
And in doing so, we just quietly, implicitly devalue the ordinary ground. Because the baseline isn't a peak. The baseline is stunningly ordinary.
It's so ordinary.
It's literally just the sensation of your feet on the floor. It's the quiet rumble of your stomach. It's an environment totally free of fireworks. And, the text points out something really haunting.
What's that?
It says the people chasing these peaks aren't malicious. They are incredibly sincere. But sincerity does not guarantee accuracy. You can be sincerely sprinting in the completely wrong direction.
That's beautifully said. And this raises an important question, right? What happens to a nervous system that is constantly subjected to peak spiritual experiences without a baseline?
It burns out, right?
It does. It results in the exact unsettling energy you described at the very start of this deep dive. The person's system is just fried. They are addicted to the adrenaline of expansion, completely mistaking the massive effort of the climb for the sacred itself.
Wow.
They're perpetually trying to escape the very ground they're supposedly seeking.
So what does this all mean for you listening to this? If striving for the peak is actually pulling you further into unreality, if the constant drive to process and integrate and expand is just keeping you trapped on this highly sophisticated treadmill, how do you actually recover the ground? Like, what is the antidote here?
Well, the author's solution is beautifully uncompromising. And I have to warn you, it's incredibly difficult for modern minds to accept.
Uh-oh.
Because recovery is not a new project. You do not need a new guru, a new psychedelic, or a new journaling prompt.
Right. You can literally put your wallet away. You don't have to buy anything.
You buy nothing. What is actually required is the genuine willingness to stop.
Which sounds aggressively simple, just stop.
Right.
But practically, that is deeply terrifying for someone who has built their entire identity around being a seeker.
Oh, it's terrifying. Because when you have been conditioned to believe that spiritual growth is a ladder, stopping feels exactly like failure. If you are actively doing the work, reaching, striving, processing, your brain tells you that you are losing ground.
Stillness registers as an actual threat.
Yes. The sudden drop into parasympathetic nervous system regulation, which is just the actual physical state of resting, it can feel like a dangerous void to a brain that's become accustomed to the high voltage electricity of constant spiritual effort.
It makes me think of someone wearing a pair of really expensive noise-canceling headphones.
Okay, I like this.
And they're listening to this beautifully curated, high-definition audio track of forest sounds. And they are intensely analyzing the frequencies of the bird calls on the track. They're adjusting the equalizer. They are fully consumed by optimizing their listening experience.
Right, doing the work.
Doing the work, and someone just taps them on the shoulder and says, hey, just take the headphones off. There are actual birds singing right outside your window.
Oh, well, that's perfect.
But taking the headphones off feels like you are losing the control and the optimization that you worked so incredibly hard for. But it is literally the only way to hear reality.
That is the exact mechanism of recovery. The feminine, the true baseline we've been talking about, does not operate through effort or optimization. She operates entirely through recognition.
Recognition.
Yes.
Yeah.
You do not find the ground by trying harder to grasp it or by, formulating a better theory about how gravity works. You remember the ground by simply letting the climb collapse.
And the body is constantly offering us this reality check. It's not hiding it from us. The baseline is present precisely in the places where our striving, hypervigilant minds absolutely refuse to land.
Exactly.
It is in the automatic rhythm of the breath that requires zero instruction from your ego. It is in the heavy biological pull of sleep. It is in the way a toddler presses their hands into the dirt, totally fascinated by the texture and completely unconcerned with the concept of nature.
To heal the wound of contemporary spirituality isn't to adopt a better, more ancient belief system. It is simply to surrender the performance of healing long enough to feel what was never absent in the first place. You just land.
Wow. We have really dismantled the architecture of modern wellness today. I mean, we started by looking at how easily our biology can be tricked into mapping genuine physiological sensation onto constructed spiritual theater.
Yeah, that VR treadmill.
Right. And then we explored the subtle trap of integration, where we organize our mental fragments into these beautiful spreadsheets while our bodies remain fundamentally disconnected from the earth.
And we tracked how an addiction to peak states and altered consciousness has led us to confuse the spiritual adrenaline of the climb with the quiet, unnameable ground beneath our feet. We saw that the true feminine isn't a personality trait you can just acquire, but the raw condition of reality you simply recognize.
So as you go about your week, examining your own routines and practices, I think the takeaway here is profoundly liberating. True connection doesn't require you to master another framework. You don't need to perfectly map out your trauma before you're allowed to experience peace.
Not at all.
The baseline you are exhausting yourself trying to find is literally already within you. It is patiently, quietly waiting in your very next exhale. It is in the physical pressure of your feet against the floorboards.
You don't have to build a staircase to reach it. You just have to allow the momentum of your seeking to finally run out of gas.
Which brings us right back to our opening thought, that really unsettling feeling of encountering someone whose spiritual performance just feels out of sync with reality. The friction comes from the exhaustion of always acting out the arrival instead of actually arriving.
Yeah.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a completely different angle to chew on, something that really reframes the stakes of everything we've been talking about today.
Let's hear it.
We've discussed how stopping is a psychological challenge, right? But consider this. Wellness is a trillion-dollar global industry. Entire economies are built on selling you the next retreat, the next supplement, the next integration workbook. The underlying message of the market is that you are always broken, and the cure is always one purchase or one peak experience away.
It's a huge business.
It really is. So what if the ultimate spiritual achievement isn't just about personal peace? What if simply stopping realizing that the baseline of reality is completely free and requires absolutely zero maintenance isn't just a spiritual revelation, but an act of radical economic rebellion?